Welcome, everyone, to today's exploration into the source material. I mean, we are going on a really sweeping, globe-trotting journey today.
We really are. It's a massive leap across not just geography, but, centuries of economic development and
Definitely.
all within a single lifetime, which is just wild.
Yeah, today we are looking at the deeply personal and honestly pretty politically charged memoir, God Bless My Son, an epic journey by Dr. Aklog Birara.
Hmm.
And our mission for this exploration is to trace this incredible trajectory of a man who went from an unmapped, barefoot childhood in a rural Ethiopian village all the way to the absolute highest echelons of the World Bank.
Right. It's essentially the ultimate masterclass on resilience, global development, and really the fight against systemic inequality.
Totally. So if you're listening and you've ever felt, I don't know, overwhelmed by global geopolitics or just the sheer scale of institutional poverty, this story actually provides a blueprint. It shows how one individual's deeply rooted local values can successfully challenge massive, rigid global systems. Okay, let's unpack this. We begin in this lush, rural setting, right? Tenehil Mariam, Ethiopia.
Yeah, and we're talking a village with no schools, no electricity, nothing like that.
Wow.
And right away, the source material highlights this incredibly striking contrast between Birar's parents.
Right, the parents are fascinating.
You really are. So his father was this fierce, litigious patriot. He actually had a bullet still lodged in his leg from fighting Italian fascists.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very hardened. But his mother, Kwankoi, she was an illiterate, deeply spiritual woman. Her catchphrase basically was, God bless my son, which of course gives the memoir its title.
And there's this defining moment in his childhood, right, during a really severe drought.
Exactly. So the father had built these secret underground grain silos for the family, but as neighbors literally begin to starve, Kwankwe defies her husband's absolute fury, and she opens the secret silos to feed the neighbors.
Just giving it all away.
Yeah, her philosophy is simple. Just give and do not expect something in return.
But wait, let me push back a bit here, because looking at those underground grain silos, aren't they essentially like a modern strategic national reserve? I mean, is this ancient, localized safety net actually a more effective and humane form of social security than, say, modern top-down foreign aid?
Well, what's fascinating here is how this localized unconditional generosity really formed the bedrock of Birara's later economic philosophy.
So it wasn't just about handing out grain.
No, not at all. It planted the seed that true development has to be people-centered. Like, it has to be rooted in mutual trust and prioritize human dignity over, bureaucratic spreadsheets.
Right. Though he does deal with spreadsheets later on. But first, he makes this incredible quantum jump. He goes to church school, then high school with American Peace Corps teachers, and then he wins the 1964 Herald Tribune World Youth Forum essay contest.
Which is a huge deal. It means he gets on a plane to New York City.
Which is just, I can't even imagine the culture shock. Going from a village with no cars to a metropolis of millions.
It was staggering, and the memoir details this intense culture shock. I mean, he encountered deep ignorance. He had American students genuinely asking him if Africans lived in houses or trees.
Oh, man. Seriously.
Yeah, it was bad. But he also experiences this profound American generosity that sort of mirrored his mother's. There was a Quaker community at George School.
Oh, led by Ken Keskinen, right?
Exactly. They rallied completely behind him with these grassroots campaigns, literally called Bring Aklog Back and a Backlog for Aklog.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they completely funded his Ivy League level education.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Because if you are entirely funded and shaped by an elite American education, didn't that run the risk of alienating Birara from his Ethiopian roots, like threatening to turn him into just another Western-style development bureaucrat?
You'd definitely think so. But the text explains that he avoided that because of what he was absorbing in the U.S. at the time. This was the height of the civil rights movement.
Ah, right. The timing is key.
Exactly. He was observing the contrasting approaches of Martin Luther King Jr. and the Black Power movement. And from his Quaker sponsors, he absorbed this core belief that there is, quote, that of God in every person.
Meaning this inherent equal worth.
Yes. And it actually fortified his Pan-Africanism. He used that universal principle to reject both white racism in America and, crucially, ethnic tribalism back home.
Which he's about to run into head first, because he returns to Ethiopia with his PhD, eager to serve his country, and walks straight into a deadly political firestorm.
Yeah, baptism by fire is honestly an understatement here.
Because of the student movement.
Right. The 1970s Ethiopian student movement was deeply, deeply fractured ideologically.
And the source material notes his stance very clearly here. Dr. Birara firmly advocated for a class-based economic struggle,
Yeah,
uniting people against poverty.
exactly. While he was firmly opposing what was called the national question, which was this push to divide Ethiopia along ethnic lines.
Like ethnic federalism and liberation fronts.
Yeah, like the TPLF and OLF. He believed that organizing a nation that way would ultimately fracture and impoverish it. But because of his stances, he was targeted.
Framed by a fabricated magazine article, right?
Yeah, arrested the moment he arrived and only cleared by Prime Minister Akulu Heptawold.
It feels so much like a promising tech startup where the brilliant founders viciously turn on each other, that their obsession with ideological purity and sensationalism ultimately destroy the very nation they were trying to save.
Well, this raises an important question. Because Dr. Birara's impartial assessment, as outlined in the text, was that the ethnicization of politics basically replaced national unity with a zero-sum game of tribal hegemony.
Meaning if one tribe wins, another has to lose.
Exactly. He warned that a constitution allowing ethnic secession breeds perpetual war. And you just cannot build the physical and social infrastructure you need for true economic development when you're caught in that.
And the stakes were literally life and death. Later, when he was general manager of the Commercial Bank of Ethiopia during the brutal Derg regime, he survived 3 separate assassination attempts.
Including one orchestrated by a close relative, actually.
Which is just heartbreaking.
It really is. It illustrates the devastating reality of that ideological division. Ultimately, he was forced to flee the country and agonizingly had to leave his 2 young sons behind for years.
Wow, so he eventually makes his way to the U.S. and embarks on this 30-year career at the World Bank.
Right. And he changes the system from within.
Because he realized the bank had this heavily male-dominated Anglo-Saxon culture, right?
Yeah.
That marginalized Black and Afro-Latino staff.
Very much so. But instead of just staying quiet, he pushed back. He actually became the bank's first senior advisor for racial equality, or SARE.
Under President James Wolfensohn.
Right. And he instituted mentoring programs and literally forced leadership to look at their own internal data regarding disparity.
But let me jump in here. I mean, isn't fighting the World Bank's internal corporate culture while simultaneously battling global superpowers over the Nile River, which we'll get to, isn't that a bit like trying to empty the ocean with a teaspoon? Like, how much structural impact can one insider actually have?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Birara's strategy was always about institutional capacity building. It wasn't just about making noise.
It was about building lasting structures.
Exactly, whether it was implementing those racial equality metrics at the World Bank or his post-retirement advocacy.
Which included fighting those global land grabs.
Yeah, where foreign investors basically act as new landlords over Ethiopian farmers. And of course, his passionate defense of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or the GERD.
Right. The text outlines his stance that since Ethiopia contributes 86% of the Nile's waters, it has a sovereign right to hydroelectric development.
Yes, despite immense pressure from Egypt and Western superpowers trying to block it.
So how did he fight that?
By organizing. He helped create the Ethiopian Water Advisory Council, EWAC, to rally the diaspora to fund the GERD independently. His method proves that sustained, organized pushback can actually shift global policies.
Sidestepping the superpowers entirely.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? Well, if you're listening, it means being a true global citizen doesn't mean abandoning your local roots.
Not at all.
Dr. Birara's journey shows that you can operate at the highest levels of global finance without losing the moral compass that was forged in a mud brick house in a rural village.
Yeah, the silo philosophy never really left him.
Right. Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over. If an illiterate mother's simple act of opening a grain silo during a drought could instill a philosophy that eventually challenged the World Bank and reshaped international hydropolitics, what small, everyday acts of localized generosity might you be doing right now that could quietly shape the global future?